This is Miss Lizzie, and I want to welcome you to the Queen Lizzie podcast. Together, we will go through the history of Rosewood, Florida, and watch as the once prosperous town rises out of the bloodshed, fire, and ash to reveal the people, the memory, and the legacy of Rosewood. Watch every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our story on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Hello, everybody. This is Mrs. Lizzie Polly Robinson Brown Jenkins, representing not only the Rosewood Foundation, but the personal testimonies and history of cherished friends and family. You are now watching the Queen Lizzie podcast. Today, we are talking with Miss Barbara Chandler, director of the Hannibal Square Heritage Center, Winter Park, Florida. Good afternoon, Mrs. Chandler.
Well, good afternoon, Queen Lizzie. It gives me great pleasure to be here sitting next to you.
I am honored to have you here sitting next to me. We met in 2018, I believe.
I believe so. That is correct. That is correct. Can you believe it?
I know.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, but you don't forget nice people.
That's
and
right.
I'm so honored you invited me back to your museum last week, and I'm going to pause here and allow you to talk about.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much, Lizzie, for having me on the show. It is with sheer delight that I am here. As Miss Lizzie introduced me, or Queen Lizzie, my name is Barbara Chandler, director with the Hannibal Square Heritage Center in Winter Park. The Heritage Center preserves the African American history through photographs and oral stories. Every 3 or 4 months, we bring in a visiting exhibition.
Yes.
And this, it's been maybe 2 weeks now. 2 weeks, we had an elegy to Rosewood. And that exhibition is on loan from FIU, Florida International University, the Philip and Patricia Frost Museum. So when Amy Galpin, who is one of the lead curators, reached out to me personally to inquire if we would want to have this exhibition, which is going to be traveling Central Florida at the Heritage Center as the second stop. Come on now. I was like, of course, of course, of course. We did the opening May the 12th, and you were there.
Yes.
Pedro was there,
Yes.
Yadi Riviera was there, Amy Galpin was on site maybe a couple days later. Actually, her and Patrick Knows, who is the curator of the Heritage Center, and watching them and the sensitivity in installing that exhibition, I learned so much.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, so we're excited. The exhibition will be on an elegy to Rosewood will be on exhibition until August. And I have to share with you the walk-in traffic. We're there Tuesday through Thursdays, 12 noon to 4 p.m. The walk-in traffic has been tremendous.
Really?
And these are people who have heard about the show.
Yes.
They've read in the different articles, and they are just excited that they can come in and see some type of an exhibition of the actual history of Rosewood.
Artifacts, heirlooms. That my aunt was the Rosewood school teacher from
Yes.
1915 to 1923, and she saved some of these items that were brought to her, believe it or not, by the sheriff.
Wow.
Before the Levy County Sheriff, Bob Walker, before her house was burned.
My gosh.
And he had a difficult time trying to confiscate her artifacts before they were stolen. So what he said to the guys who were the KKK stealing, and before they burned it down, he said to them, everything in this house belongs to me.
That's right.
And what he did for her, not knowing, she was not aware of it, he saved it. He collected items from her house, put in a pillowcase,
Wow.
and a tub, a zinc tub that she had hanging on the side of the house, and brought them to Archer to her. She knew not that he was going to do this. She didn't even know he knew where she lived. But because he was the sheriff and he was about doing the right thing, good humanitarian,
Yes.
he made certain the one thing, at least the one thing he could afford her with was some of her items.
And that means a whole lot when we talk about the Rosewood massacre, when we talk about what is left. So being able to have those items, those memorabilias, it gives you a complete sense of who these people are, who these people were.
Yes.
It gives you what's important. When you think about a community like Rosewood,
Yes.
you think about a community like Eatonville, Hannibal Square, and all these other African American communities, which a lot of them are technically still intact structurally.
Yes.
This is important that we also have that linkage. So having those memorabilias, the photographs, Pedro's painting,
Yes.
it just helps us again to connect these communities from which we came.
Exactly. And it is exciting. It's a lot of work,
A
but
lot
it's
of work.
something we enjoy doing.
Yes,
Because
yes.
we know that our ancestors lived what we are preserving.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Today, what brought us down, and I tell you, this is all organic. The young lady, Dana, whom you met, who's
Yes,
with me today, and Bridget,
yes.
she walked into the Heritage Center. She is working close by the Heritage Center, and she said she was leaving work, and she turned around, and she was like, wait a second, what is this? The Heritage Center. So she comes in and we start talking.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to today, I've been saying before Juneteenth, because you're coming back in Juneteenth,
Yes.
before Juneteenth, I have to get down here. I wanted to be in the space. I wanted to collect some of the soil, some of the dirt from Rosewood. And Dana walks in and I'm giving her a tour and she says, oh my goodness. She said at the beginning of the year, she drove down, she showed me the marker, she showed me the phone, the home on her phone, and I said, I have got to go. I said, Miss Jenkins has been here, we're gonna be doing Juneteenth, remembering Rosewood,
Yes.
and I said, I need to physically be in that space. So Bridget, who is also a great volunteer of the Heritage Center, we decided to drive down today. We got in our car 7:30, arrived, you met us there at the marker. And again, it's just very fortuitous, in the words of Dana, how this all just worked out.
Yes.
She came to visit, knew the history, and again, being in the space, having that moment, and being able, for me, I'm at the Heritage Center every day, being able to now expand when I'm given a tour of what it meant to be in that space, what this actually looks like,
Yes.
and then also having the memorabilias. It is a very enriching story. I think this is how I bring a lot of the validity and actually my own efficacy, in which I don't have the full experience, but I know what it feels like to be in that space now.
Exactly. And I know what it feels like to know you and to meet you at the marker, and we
Yes.
gathered the soil together.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that's the one thing you can share with people. We have the soil.
We have the soil
Rosewood.
from Rosewood.
We saw the house. We read the marker.
Yes.
We took pictures. It's reliving.
It's reliving.
history.
That's right. And it was so moving for me. I always say I'm just this little island girl. I'm just this little island girl, and sometimes I'm like, how did I get here? How did I end up in this specific space with someone like you, a living piece of history that you get to impart in me? And I always say it's up to me now what I do with this.
it.
And it's to pass it on to people who I know, pass it on to my family and the islands. And again, it's connecting these Black communities from a historical standpoint. And Rosewood is very, very special to Central Florida, to Florida in all, and it's up to us to keep that history alive.
Exactly.
Yes.
And my mom would tell me, we have all lived a Rosewood. And when she said that,
beautiful.
She was talking about Ocoee.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
It's the same
happened
thing. That's
both
right.
places with a different name.
With a different name.
And she said to me, you must keep this history alive.
Yes.
When she gave me this assignment, Miss Barbara, I did not want to. I did not, because I foresaw the amount of work. And I was angry, but she didn't know it.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be a big responsibility. So she worked with me.
Yeah.
She made me feel guilty. If Mama was younger,
Yes.
Mama would do it. And I wanted to say to her, then do it, Mom. But
Yes.
I didn't. But I have been working on it, and my
Yes.
goal is to research, authenticate, tell the truth, so that we can leave the history for the
That's
next
right.
generation.
Well, you are a demonstration of an amazing example of being a good steward to history. When we met in 2018, and I shared with you and Bridget and Dana, in 2018, around that time, I was here or close to here in Gainesville. I had taken some time away from the Heritage Center and was helping my son and daughter-in-law watch their son while they attended school and things like that. And in that, I believe that's where I found and heard about Rosewood. I was like, wait a second. And in putting that all together, that's when we invited you out for the first time.
Exactly.
And look at where we are now.
Yes.
I mean, the Juneteenth show, again, when Amy reached out to us about 2 years ago, I said, and she said, when do you all want to have it? And I said, we want to have it in Juneteenth. In planning out and building out the Juneteenth program, I said, this is it.
Yes.
It's remembering Rosewood.
Yes.
Juneteenth has been official holiday for now, what, 2 or 3 years?
Yes.
About 2 or 3 years.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I always, as the producer, I always want to feel that we are being relevant with the times. We're educating, and that we're informing people around history. So the Juneteenth show, Valeda Fluellen, she's going to be the moderator. And also Dr. Alex Cornelius,
Yes.
she will be on there. And it was important in seeing the exhibition when I saw it for the very first time at FIU, the role of women in history.
Exactly. Awesome.
The role of women in history.
And it
Yes.
Yes. And it can only get better
And it can only get better.
with people like you.
I'm trying.
Bringing you back, and
I'm trying.
excited.
We're excited. I definitely echo about it being hard. I don't know another fancier term to use, because there are so many days when you are fighting for representation, when you are trying to acknowledge the past, and then you see the contemporary history.
Yes.
It gets frustrating.
Yes.
There are moments I want to turn in the key and be like, okay, let me.
This is it.
But I said, you're such a great demonstration. If you can stay in the fight, and you stay in the fight looking well. So if you can stay in the fight looking as good as you do, then I'm like, okay, Barbara, drink more water, take more vitamins, do what you have to do. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And the fight is not easy, but it's steady.
Yes.
Steadfast.
Yes.
Unmovable.
Yes. It's unmovable.
Yes.
It's unmovable.
Yes.
That's a great way to say it.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's Mom's work. And Mom said to me, oh, you just make sure you hang in there. So my mother wanted me to write a song. I said, I can't write a song. If I write it for you, you've got to sing it. And that's the song I forgot when I was there. I was just so full, because the burden of history is not easy.
It is not.
It is not easy. I couldn't remember the song. I went to church yesterday. I sang the song all the way through.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No paper.
Yes.
I was free. Okay. I was free.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was doing it just to see if I remembered it.
Yes.
And the one verse that I like very much because it talks about my aunt, and it says, the Cedar Key train conductors were told to pick up in Rosewood. Standing by the tracks with the lantern, its young school teacher stood, waiting in desperation to carry out the sheriff's plan, rounding up the hidden survivors to board the midnight train. The train did not come at midnight, but it did 4 a.m. in the morning after midnight.
Right.
But the word midnight was so compelling to my mom.
Correct.
She wanted to use
Who wrote
midnight.
that song?
My mother.
My God.
My mother.
My God.
And
We all need to learn that song.
we do. It tells the story.
Yes.
Once you hear the story of Rosewood, I don't need to say anything else. All
That's
you need
right.
to do, ask questions. What was the purpose of the lantern?
Yes.
The purpose of the lantern, because the train conductors were from Briceville. There was a train hub a depot hub in Cedar Key.
Okay.
And they housed their trains there. However, the sheriff, remember I told you the sheriff knew everybody. He worked, my mother said, 96 hours straight.
Wow.
So he, through begging and pleading, appealing, the train conductors agreed, said, Bob, if you do this, plan this after 12 when our family members are asleep and the bad guys are asleep, he said, we will help you out. But we cannot risk our family lives. We can't put their lives in jeopardy if the people know that we are on this train. So the sheriff, not the sheriff, the store merchant wife and the store merchant gave my aunt a lantern, and the wife gave her a long black skirt. And the purpose of that skirt was to cover that lantern so they will not see the light as the train was approaching. But when she saw the light of the train and heard the silent whistle, and I asked Mom, how can a whistle be silent? My mom said it was soft. She knew to move that skirt back and forth to let the train conductors know that she was standing there.
And they would stop.
They would stop and pick the women, men, and children up, because the KKK, those men, the bad guys were standing close around. And then the purpose of the men that said, we will help you, Bob, to me, they are my unsung heroes.
Right.
Because they exited that train, helped put the men, women, and children on that train, and brought them to Archer. So the sheriff and the store owner worked around the clock, informed the train conductors just when and where to stop, pick up the men, women, and children who were hiding out, and bring them to Archer, Florida, traveling the same old route. And that's where my aunt lives, Archer, at the time. And that was the first stop. They dropped her off, and other people that did not live in Archer, didn't have any place to go, some of them exited in Archer. The majority of them exited in Gainesville. But they were not from Gainesville.
Right.
Many of the people lived in Rosewood, came into Rosewood on schooners, boats. The Gulf of Mexico. Cedar Key is surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico, and they made Rosewood, Sumner their home in Cedar Key. So the story goes on and on and on. But when the train got to Briceville, the home of the Brice brothers, there were people still aboard that train because they had no place to get off. They didn't have family in any of the places to get out. So they ended up there. And the train conductor's father, John Brice, was kind enough to give them jobs because he owned a sawmill there. Plus, he put them up in shanties, houses. Okay. So the story, as I said, is deep and it's very inspirational, and it just goes on and on and on, telling the history of Rosewood. And I try to tell it in a positive way because so many positive things happen.
And when I'm listening to you intently, and we think of massacres, we think of gentrification, and the commonalities or the common thread in that is all of that displacement.
Yes.
Families get displaced, they move off to cities, and so one of the things that we know from, as African Americans from in slavery, that kind of, when we have to go in so many different directions and build community wherever we are, again, it's never that we can stay on the same place, stay on the same soil for that in which we come. So it's kind of like we are always looking for community. We're always looking for a place in which to belong and call our home.
Exactly. And that is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's about time for our first half. We are going to head to a quick break, and we'll be back right after a quick Rosewood word.
I am Black History.
I am Rosewood Black History. I am Florida and America's Black History, and you are too.
January 1st, 1923, the KKK insurrectionists attacked Rosewood, killing 5, burning it down.
Because a white woman lied and cried, a black man assaulted me. Rosewood redevelopment is on its way.
Want to help? Visit rosewoodflorida.com.
My name is Lizzie Robinson Jenkins. I am the president and founder of the Real Rosewood Foundation, established 2003 in Archer, Florida. Years ago, in a little town called Rosewood, Florida, there was a massacre. Several people were killed, all because of guns, violence, disrespect. We cannot allow gun violence to take out our young kids. We're coming together. We're going to work together, and we are going to put guns on the run. GNV. Welcome back to Queen Lizzie Podcast, recorded right here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Coach Spurrier's own podcast room. We are here with guest Barbara Chandler, and we are going to talk about Juneteenth, which is coming up, and I'm going to be her guest. Yes. And I am honored, I am happy, and I'm going to give it over to her, and she's going to share with you what we are going to, or what her agenda looks like.
Yes. It's going to be fantastic. I'm proud to say this is the 9th, I think it's the 9th Juneteenth event that I have produced in historic Hannibal Square. When we think about Rosewood coming to Hannibal Square, I was like, okay, we got to do this right. Last year, we talked about living as an African American man. Guest speaker was Dr. Vilbert White. The year before that, we talked about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, whether it was in the workplace, environmentally. And again, this is myself and the team that I work with, making sure that we are giving people present day information that connects us historically. So with it being, again, the centennial of Rosewood, FIU, Amy Galpin and her team having this exhibition in the Heritage Center's second floor gallery, it was only fitting that Remembering Rosewood comes to historic Hannibal Square. So I see this again as connecting these historical communities. Hannibal Square was designated as an area where African Americans lived for those who were on the east side in Winter Park, which were the snowbirds. They were the labor force. They were the domestic workers. A lot of them owned their land, owned their businesses, owned the brick and mortar. And we saw, of course, gentrification remove a lot of families from that community. So what is now technically a gentrified community, a lot of people don't know this, but Winter Park has not had African American representation in 150 years, over 100 years, to sit on the city council. So when we start looking at things as gentrification, losing members of the community, we can only, again, when we trace back to a massacre like Rosewood, and I never want to downplay a massacre or say it's a gentrification is the same thing as a massacre, but it has a lot of the common thread.
Yes.
It's a modern day type of massacre.
Exactly.
We're losing bodies from historical communities.
Yes.
And when we do that, the people who are there, our elders who are there, who's representing them? So it's really prolific to have this exhibition. So right across the street is the Winter Park Community Center. Inside of the Winter Park Community Center, June the 17th, Saturday, June the 17th, we are going to open with a Father's Day breakfast. And that was in lieu of everything that we saw with our brother George Floyd, Black Lives Matter,
Yes.
civil unrest. I wanted a way in which to edify the Black man. And so I said, how do we do this? And it's through a Father's Day breakfast. Okay. And again, it's all about bringing community together. A lot of times we're living in communities and don't know who each other are. So things like a community breakfast, everyone's invited. So everyone can come together and see exactly who's living in the community, what residents are still here, and introduce the new residents can understand who's there and the history. So we open up our Juneteenth, a historic Juneteenth celebration with a free Father's Day breakfast. That begins about 8 o'clock. And again, it's open to everyone, every ethnicity. Women can come, yes. Children can come. I always say it's a great way to bring have a Father's Day breakfast, and then it's free, of course, and then you can spend your money on dinner for him. So you get
Exactly.
to treat it, you get
Exactly.
to treat him two different ways. And then after the Father's Day breakfast, we go right into program. So on the panel, our main panel will be yourself, Dr. Cornelius, moderated by Valeda Fluellen, and you are going to tell us the history of Rosewood. We also have a Juneteenth honoree. Juneteenth honorees are those unsung heroes.
Yes.
People, I call them foot soldiers.
Yes.
The ones
yes,
who are
yes.
doing the work in our community, and sometimes they go unrecognized.
Exactly.
And you and I both know those people are not seeking recognition. They
Yes.
know that this particular deed or task that they're doing is their calling, and they're fine with that. But one of the things I realize that in our community, the reason why we're able to sustain is a lot of times because of that unsung hero.
Exactly.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah, and so therefore we get to name them. We get to honor them here, because a lot of times you will come into a community or you're living in a community and all these things are happening and you're wondering who's doing them, who's creating these, who's behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And so therefore we get to give name and face to these people.
Perfect.
So we're going to have a Juneteenth honoree presentation directly after the panel discussion. We realize in a lot of cases this can be a heavy subject, and we don't want to feel as though we're just leaving anyone to process these emotions on their own. So we're going to do a breathing technique. Mm-hmm. Anyone who has any type of, for African Americans, any type of generational trauma, right. A lot of the times we're walking around in trauma and it's stored within our body. Our memories are stored in our body. For anyone who is non-African American and they may be experiencing guilt,
right.
They get to breathe, be in the process, be in community, and kind of try to work those emotions out.
Feeling it, which is a healing.
Which is healing.
It
is healing.
Exactly.
And it's community healing. A lot of it is community healing. And just making sure that we show compassion.
Yes.
Making sure that we show awareness. So we're going to infuse that. That's going to be a 10, 15 minute kind of presentation. We have Orlando's Poet Laureate.
Yes.
I hope I'm saying that correct. Sean Welcome.
Yes.
He's going to do one of his spoken word pieces.
Okay.
He is dynamic. I have a singer coming in, and I said, if we're going to talk Rosewood, we got to talk spirituals.
Exactly, because they did have a quartet. If you can find 4 guys that would like to sing,
wow!
But old songs, spiritual, gospel. Yes. And introduce them. That's fine.
Yes.
And we can also invite Donald Duck. I am serious.
Donald Duck?
From Disney World. Is it Mickey Mouse?
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse from
Mickey Mouse?
From Disney World. Okay, that would be different. Fun, because we cannot allow our Black History Band.
Yes. We cannot. And a friend of mine is LaWanda Thompson, who is also in the Hannibal Square community and does a lot of wonderful things. She just did the Malcolm X Book Fest, where she was actually giving away a lot of the banned books. One of the things we know is that with the removal of the books from the public schools, from the libraries, it's important that these books are in our home.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times, depending on who you are, you may not have your own home library. Exactly. So just having access to books makes it essential for us to learn history in I say a very fundamental way. Yes. Visiting these spaces, visiting the Rosewood site, being in that space, visiting the Heritage Center. There's also the Wells-Built Museum ran by Geraldine Thompson. There is the Zora Museum ran by N.Y. Nathiri. Those are the most fundamental ways in which that we can go into community, learn the history, learn the people, learn about the people. And we are just looking forward to when the Rosewood Museum.
We will be there. And the Wells, our family, is part of the Rosewood family.
What do you know?
There are many people don't know this, but I did meet some of them when we first started in 1992-ish. I met the Wells. I think at one time they owned a hotel there. Okay.
That's right.
Yes, and they were, at the top of history.
That is right. Yes, he was a obstetrician, I believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, and owned. Yeah, and he owned the Wells-Built Museum.
Yes.
Well, pardon me. It was a hotel. Yeah,
yes.
It was a hotel. That's correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is more critical now. It's very critical to us in this present moment that we have to support the work of what you're doing.
Exactly.
We have to support the work of what you're doing because, I always say a lot of times we're from Missouri. You got to show me. We're from the show me city. You got to show me. And you got to show me the photographs. We have to actually take our millennials and Gen X or Gen Zs into those spaces through photographs, through stories, so they can see where we were and where we are and where we can go.
Exactly. And I am an author. I will bring my
Nice.
book.
Yes.
But I have one, especially one that I want it in every household. It's a book consisting of Black female little girls' pictures.
Wow.
When we were growing up, not a book that I have ever read hosted or shared a picture of a Black person.
Wow.
I am so proud of this book. It tells about my growing up on a farm.
Nice.
It tells about me going to school, not wearing shoes.
Yeah,
It talks
wow.
about Rosewood. It's really story that's going to stick to you.
Yes.
You will forever
Yes.
remember it.
Yes.
And I'm excited. My book signing is June 24th.
Oh, nice.
In Gainesville.
Oh,
at
nice,
the
nice,
National
nice.
Center.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, and I'm looking forward. It's not a long book. It's an easy read.
Exactly.
58, between 58, 64 pages.
Will you have some at Juneteenth?
I will make sure I bring
Yes,
some there.
bring everything. However, this community can support you. We want to be able to do that. Bring books, bring t-shirts, however we can support you. We are going to have other community partners there as well.
Okay.
And in that, our community partners are more informational, not
Yes.
vendors.
Yes.
Because this is not and while I know having a marketplace is important, what is very important is knowing what resources are in our community. So whatever information you have for us, however we can support you and make contributions to your organization, we want to do that. We want to do that.
Okay, and in order to make a contribution, you may go to my website, which is rosewoodflorida.com, FLORIDA.com, and make a donation. It can be monthly. Okay, we need to move this Rosewood house that you
Yes.
saw today.
Yes.
Rosewood to Archer.
Sure.
It takes money, and we need your help.
Yes.
Yes, and we are expecting your help.
Yes. And what is the goal? When would you like that house to be moved to Archer?
What's this month is by October.
By October of 2023.
2023.
We got to
Right.
get it. We
got
deserve this. The community, you deserves this. The city deserves this.
Yes.
It can be done. We need it. We need this type of history. So congratulations to you on your book. And I mean, we're here to support you however we can.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. And this is just the beginning. And my board is very diverse,
Nice.
okay, because people want to help with history. As long as they know it's true,
Yes.
they will support you. And I tell people my closing statement on my email, if you can feel it, you can understand
Understand
it.
it.
And I make sure people feel it
That's right.
because I tell the truth.
That's right.
Okay.
And they feel it at the Heritage Center. And this is what drove me out here. I was like, wait a minute, we need some dirt. There has to be some of the soil as a part of this exhibition when people come in on the day of. Because again, one of the things we know, which we all have played in as children, is the dirt.
I remember I used
Yeah.
to eat the dirt.
The
It
mud
was
pies.
beautiful sand. No, I would eat it. My mother said, "What are you doing?" Nothing. You know, I was a kid on my stomach eating dirt. Not a whole lot, but it was beautiful. Yes. And
a good mud pie.
a good mud pie. You know, we experimented.
Yes, indeed.
Let
Yes,
me taste this
indeed.
to see what it's going to taste
Yes.
like. Yes, and we will be looking forward to seeing you. And I want the people out there to know that you can find Queen Lizzie's podcast on my podcast. I'm sorry, on my Facebook. It says Queen Lizzie Podcast. Okay. It's also on my another Facebook, Lizzie Robinson Jenkins.
Nice.
Okay. And you can donate again at Rosewood, Florida, FLORIDA.com. We want to see you in Winter Park.
Yes. June 17th. Again, the Father's Day, it's Saturday, June 17th. The Father's Day breakfast begins at 8:30 to 9:30. We have I forget the name, but it's a community group, and they're actually the ones preparing the breakfast. They're going to do some fish. They're going to do a little bit of grits and biscuits. It's going to be a good breakfast.
Yes.
We've been able to feed at least over 100-ish community members. And then we go right into discussion. So from 10 o'clock, beginning at 10 o'clock, the panel discussion, and then we should end maybe about 1 o'clock. And then from there, you're able to go right across the street to the Heritage Center to see the permanent exhibition as well as the featured exhibition, An Elegy to Rosewood.
Wonderful. And I want you to know the Elegy of Rosewood has gone national, not
Yes.
national, international. I was speaking with a friend in New York, and she said to me, Lizzie, what are you doing in my living room? She saw it on television.
Yeah.
Okay, and I said, oh, it has gone national. She said, oh, no, international, because she has a friend in Japan
Oh, wow.
who had seen
Wow.
it there.
Wow.
So it has
Wow.
gone. Rosewood has its own identity.
Yes.
The Elegy of Rosewood.
Yes.
Nothing like it.
Yes.
Yes, and
This is
we want you to
fantastic.
be present so that you can inhale some of this history and exhale it with your friends.
That's right.
Share.
That's right. That
Share.
is exactly
and
right.
Barbara, I am so looking. And let me tell you, when we leave here today, are we going back to Archer so you can see the property, or do you have time?
Oh, I'm sure we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not on the timetable. We're doing Rosewood. This
Okay.
is Monday Rosewood Day.
Okay.
Yes.
And she is going to see the property that we own, 29 acres, where we are going to relocate
29 acres. Wow.
the Rosewood house from Rosewood to Archer.
Sure.
And she wants to see everything.
Yes.
That's good.
All right. I thank you so much. I thank you for having me. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and just it helps me. It helps me
Thank
to
you.
continue to do my part.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you have been excellent.
Thank you.
I am continuously humble, honored, and blessed to meet people daily and invite them to join me in peace building, healing, and reconciliation through learning about the history of Rosewood. That will wrap up today's episode. Thanks to Barbara Chandler. I am Queen Lizzie. Until next time, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.